Hey guys, and welcome back. So what I want to show you right now is what is called the dev directory. Just like with proc and just like with sys, this is also located within the root of the file system. So if I do cd root ls, we can see we have this directory right here. So what we'll do is we'll go into dev, we can do pwd, and here we are. So what I'll now do is, you guessed it, I'm going to list the contents of whatever is in this directory. So we'll do an ls, and we can see a whole bunch of information right here. Now really, honestly, for the purposes of the examination, you don't have to be concerned with the vast majority of this information right here. The important thing to understand about the dev directory is that information about configured and active devices is going to be located within here. So configured and active devices, this is the directory we're going to be looking at. Now within this directory, if we do an ls-l, we can see a long listing. Now we remember this gives us more information about what is within this directory, but what I want to show you is at the very left hand side of the screen here. So see the very first character, in this case a C, this lets you know that this here, AutoFS, this relates to a character device, things like a terminal or a printer or a null value. If we say something that says D, we know that this relates to a directory, so i.e. we could cd into block, for example, change directory because it is a directory. If we see an L here, this means that this is ultimately a symbolic link. Now again, we haven't really talked with any detail at all about symbolic links, but just conceptualize it as a type of shortcut. You know the way you can put a shortcut on your Windows machine, say for example a desktop, and you can double click that shortcut and it will open a particular program. This is effectively what we have here. This shortcut here, CD-ROM, actually takes us to SR0, and we can see this little arrow here. Similarly, if we double click, so to speak, the shortcut core, this is going to take us into the proc directory and into kcore. So the long listing really is quite useful in telling us what exactly we have on our hands when inspecting the dev directory. Now briefly, let me just make a quick word on what a hot plug device is versus a cold plug device. So a hot plug device, this is ultimately a device that you can connect when the actual machine is on. Classic example is a USB. You can have your computer on and running, and you can just, whilst it's still running, plug that USB in and it's going to operate exactly as expected. This USB has been hot plugged, effectively, connected when the device is on, whereas if we have a cold plug device, this is something that has to be connected whilst the device is effectively off, shut down. So now let's briefly talk about UDEV. What UDEV does, it's going to allow and basically control dynamic device management. So when you happen to, say for example, plug in a USB or remove a USB from the system kernel is going to inform UDEV effectively. Now, UDEV is ultimately based on particular rules. So for every device event that happens on the system, that's going to be matched and compared against some particular rules that UDEV has, and we can find these rules. So if I cd into the root, I go into the what is called the lib directory, and then into UDEV, and then into rules.d. If I do an ls here, this is where we can find all of these UDEV rules. So simply put, if you happen to plug in a USB device, UDEV is going to match it against some particular rules as specified, and it's going to use the information about that device, that USB device, and UDEV is ultimately going to report that information to what is called the D-bus system. This is the desktop bus system, and ultimately this creates a new device file inside /dev. And this is all automatic and transparent to us. We plug it in, and all of this information and all of these processes work under the hood. And UDEV handles this in a nice, consistent manner, so we get consistent names, so we can easily identify what it is we're managing. So ultimately, all Dbus is doing is acting as a messenger system, and it defines how data can be exchanged and information about what data is available. So UDEV talks to Dbus, and we get this data available within the dev directory. Now what we can actually do here is we can say man UDEV, and if we hit enter, It tells us, as we just learned, that UDEV is about dynamic device management. And we can see information about the rules which we just explored. And this man page tells you a little bit more information about those rules. Now we also have a UDEV management tool available to us, and that is called UDEV ADM. So what I'll do here is check out the man page on UDEV ADM. And as we can see here, this is a UDEV management tool. And basically this controls the runtime behavior of the UDEV daemon, as well as requests kernel events, manages event queues, and allows for some simple debugging. So press Q. And what we'll do is we'll actually use the UDEV ADM command. So here is a very common command that we can use if we wanted to look at kernel related UDEV events in real time. What we could say is UDEV ADM and then just say monitor. This is going to give us that real-time kernel information. So if we hit enter, now right now nothing is printing out, but if a particular kernel event had to happen, we would get to see this information in real time. But for now, I'll just press Ctrl C to stop this. So really, as a recap, the dev directory is ultimately our device directory, and it's going to be managed by UDEV. And we see how UDEV performs this operation by ultimately communicating through dbus. And this allows us to be able to easily, automatically and transparently plug in our devices and plug out our devices and change the device state. And everything is going to be managed under the hood without us having to worry about it. Okay, so that is us for the dev directory. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.